So today we'll start the topic of commonly used terms. Before we move any further in our training program, what we will try to do is today uncover some of the commonly used terms because these are the terms that we will be using going forward in our training as well. Now, what typically happens is when you start your journey as a BA or even when you appear for interviews, what truly differentiates between a business analyst and any other role into IT sector is the usage of appropriate terms. Now, we all at a very high level know what a business analyst does. Okay? But sometimes the way we explain things to others, be it interviewer or our colleagues or team members, okay, we try to use or explain it in a layman's language. Now, it may work at certain occasions, but it might not work every single time. Yeah. So it is important that we get used to the appropriate terminologies that we have to work upon. Yeah. Now, there's not a lot of terms that we'll be discussing today, but some of the terms that you'll be hearing most often when you get started with your journey as a business analyst. Yeah. The first one is statement of work or SOW. This is where we left off in our previous class that once an SOW is signed between the client and the IT organization, okay, the work can officially begin. Okay. The agreement that is signed between the client and the IT company, that agreement is called as SOW or statement of work. Okay. Basically, it will have description of what is the type of work that needs to be performed, any timelines, any legalities that are involved. Okay. Statement of work, or often abbreviated as SOW. Now, many a times, for example, if I talk to you about uh, US projects, okay? So when I was working in US health insurance, so there were a mix of people, okay? Some people were working from US. Okay. Some people were working from US and they were citizens. Okay. Some people were working from US, but they were mostly on visa. They were not the citizens. Okay. Now, there was a rule set up by the government that, for example, Medicaid program or any state sponsored programs, or let me give you an example, federal programs. Okay, where the federal employees are covered in the health insurance. So only US citizens should have access to it. So whenever we get a work, whenever we get any software changes that involve people who are enrolled into Medicaid program or are part of the federal program, okay, so in such instances, non-US citizens will not be allowed to work on such projects. Why that? Again, because it is listed out in the statement of work. Why is it listed out in the statement of the work or SOW? Because of the guidelines laid out by the government. Okay. So SOW will have detailed about what type of work needs to happen. Okay, who will be executing what responsibilities, the timelines around it, any legalities, any restrictions on data access and stuff. Everything will be listed down there. Does that mean you will have to read through SOW every day? Absolutely not. You will just have to remember the term. There will be a legal and compliance team that is responsible of knowing in and out of the SOW. Okay, you can always reach out to them to understand the SOW further better, but it's not that you have to go through the SOW. The next term that you will be using a lot is scope. Okay, so scope is like defining the boundaries for any project. Okay? So whatever work you do, there has to be a starting point and an ending point. Okay? A simple way to talk about scope is to identify the start point and the ending point. Okay. So whatever comes before starting point, whatever comes after starting point is not part of my scope. Okay. Now, two key terms that are used over here is in scope and out of scope or out scope. So what it means is whatever is not part of my boundaries, starting point and ending point is considered out of scope. Whatever falls within the starting and ending point is considered in scope. Okay. So why scoping is necessary? Because we don't want to get into an infinite loop of work. Okay. Suppose if you create a TV, okay, you lay down the specific use case of television, okay, why and for what television can be used. If you don't specify what's the purpose of having a television, okay, people will have various expectations. People can even come up and say that why can't we use a television to wash our clothes? Okay, or why can't we use a television to do remote monitoring? Okay, who is stopping us? So that's where we clearly define what our product's capabilities should be in terms of IT. Okay, this is defining capabilities of the product. Okay, so once we define the capabilities of the product, there is no question. Okay, we are keeping everyone on the same page or in the same loop. So for example, if my client says build an online payment solution. Okay. Now the problem with this statement is it is quite vague. Okay. The statement is vague. It doesn't clearly define what exactly should be considered as an online payment system or a online payment solution. Now consider this with respect to. Okay. Now, this particular statement is more specific in nature, and it helps us clearly specify the boundaries for our project. That means there could be multiple payment methods, particularly if you take example of India. So you may have a digital wallet, you may have a UPI system as well. Okay, you may have internet banking or net banking as well. You can have debit cards, credit cards as well. Okay. But now what I am doing is out of all the payment options that are available, I am limiting down my scope. Okay. I'm clearly defining my starting and ending point, which is include only debit cards and credit cards. Anything other than debit card and credit card is automatically out of scope. Okay. So anything like I said, UPI, it's not a debit card, it's not a credit card, out of scope. Okay. Digital wallets, out of scope. Debit card, in scope. Credit card, in scope. Okay. So what happened just now is now my team in I when we are doing software development, we'll be focusing only on in scope items. Okay, we will not be fretting over what is out of scope. Okay, because we have already decided that we don't have to work on it. Now, one thing to remember over here is out of scope doesn't mean that you will never work on it. Okay. Out of scope only means that as of current date, this is not my priority. Okay. Maybe in future, you may start working upon UPI payments. In future, you may include digital wallets as well. It's just that as of now, including all the payment options doesn't align with your priorities. Okay. So scope helps define boundaries. Boundaries are nothing but your starting and ending point. Okay. Anything that falls within the starting and ending point is your in scope. Okay. And this is what my team will be working upon. Okay. Anything that doesn't fall within starting and ending point is out of scope, which means my team as of now will not be working on these items. Okay. But in future, yeah, we may reprioritize and change our scope as well. Yeah. So many a times when we say clients are changing their requirements, okay, so it's more of they are changing the scope. Okay. I mean, we'll look at both of them. Then the next term is CR. Okay. The abbreviation CR stands for change, could stand for change request or a change in requirement as well. Okay. So what particularly happens is a change request when we are talking about CR, which stands for change request, what it means is basically enhancement to an existing product. Okay. When we talk about change in requirement, okay, we are more of referring to in IT development is basically the activities that are involved as part of coding. Okay, so it starts with creating a design document, then coding, okay, then unit testing. We'll see in like one of the terms which talks about the different test regions as well. So there we'll talk about more about testing also. So development basically means set of these three activities. So now change request basically means that a customer is fully aware of the capabilities of product or software, okay, and they want some changes in it. So assume I own an e-commerce application. Currently, my e-commerce application has cash on delivery option only, which means whenever you place an order, you cannot pay online. Now I want a change in that e-commerce application. I want to introduce online payment option as well, so that customers they don't have to worry about tendering exact change whenever the order is delivered. Okay. So that would be an example of a change request. Okay. That you are fully as a client, as the owner of the software or the product, I'm fully aware of the capabilities and I want some change. Okay. I want to make my product more relevant to the people. Okay. On the other hand, change requirement is suppose I already have explained to my team that I'm looking for an online payment solution. So the requirements were gathered, the design has started, or let's say the coding has begun. Once the coding has started, now I come up with more changes that, hey, in that online payment solution part, we talked about focusing on debit cards. You know what? I had a change of mind. Why don't we include credit cards as well along with debit cards? Okay. So that's a change in requirement. Okay. Now, a change in requirement can happen during any stage. It could happen during initial discussions between BA and the client. It could happen also when the requirements are being translated into a design or a coding or unit testing as well. Okay. Now, the next term is elicitation. Okay. So, elicitation is basically extracting information or knowledge from the other person. Okay. So, that's the simple meaning of elicitation. So, suppose I feel that, Raghu has lot of knowledge, let's say related to artificial intelligence. So, I would talk to him. I would try and understand what level of knowledge he has and how can he help me share his knowledge. So that's the same thing. We have a concept called requirement elicitation. Okay. So basically, as a BA, you have bunch of techniques. Okay. So you use appropriate techniques to extract opinion or facts or knowledge or ideas from the other person. Okay. When we talk about IT, the other person is generally your client or stakeholder. Okay. So many a times when we talk about requirements, okay, we often say that as a BA, I would talk to clients to get requirements. Okay. Now, if I paraphrase that statement and say that as a business analyst, I would meet with the stakeholders and using appropriate requirement elicitation techniques, I'll try to gather requirements. Okay? Now, the second statement makes more sense, okay, is more closer to what you will be doing and is better at giving impression to the interviewer that you are actually working as a business analyst. So going forward, whenever we talk about steps to extract information which will help us build our requirement, we will be using the word elicitation or requirement elicitation. Okay. So in our upcoming classes, we have sessions dedicated on requirement elicitation techniques as well. Okay. So when you talk to anyone, you will not just say that, okay, I meet with the stakeholders to get requirements. No, I'll meet with the stakeholders, apply appropriate elicitation techniques to gather the information. The next one is business rules. Okay. So business rules basically govern how an operation should be performed or how a task should be performed. So basically, in simple languages, it talks about the validations that need to be in place. Now, why we need validations? Because anything and everything that requires human interaction, is quite susceptible to receiving bad inputs. Plus, we have hackers in place that can also try to inject malware attacks on your system as well. So if we don't validate the incoming data, chances are that my system will end up having most of junk data in it. Okay. So whatever product, whatever software we are building, what happens is that software is basically or ultimately a repository of data. Okay. Some data will come in, the product will try to process that data and it will send output as some data. Okay, so the core of every process in the software is data. Okay? So it is utmost important that we take care of data. Okay, so we should be building necessary checks and balances, or in simple terms, validations to ensure that we are having access to right data. Okay, I'll give you an example of a business rule. Suppose someone is trying to log in. Okay. Now, let's say you are trying to log into an e-commerce application. Okay. Now, while trying to log in, let's say that you are giving your mobile number or phone number. Now, there are certain rules around mobile number. So let me talk about like from an Indian perspective, because then every country will have their own rules. Okay. So in India, the number must be 10 digits only. Okay. So there are two parts in it. One is that the maximum length or the total length of the mobile number, that is 10. Okay. The second one talks about digits. That means it can only be numerical field. It cannot be alphabet. Now, the moment I see any alphabets, okay, I know that it is an incorrect mobile number. The moment I see anything less than 10, okay, in length or greater than 10, it also gives me an indication that this is an incorrect mobile number. So what's a correct mobile number? The length has to be 10, all has to be digits only. Okay? Now, I'm not saying a user on purpose or a customer on purpose will enter the wrong data. Okay? But sometimes, we are just not being fully aware of what we are entering into the data. Okay? So we don't want our system or our critical resources to be processing wrong data. If there is any wrong data, if I can identify earlier, okay, I will like stop my system there itself so that I don't process wrong information or wrong data. So if customer enters a mobile number which is less than 10 in length or more than 10 in length, I'll not go ahead with the further processing. I'll display an error message, incorrect mobile number. Okay. Similarly, if I see that customer has entered alphabets instead of digits, again I'll stop there. Okay, I'll throw up an error message and I'll wait for the customer to enter 10 digits only, and then only I'll proceed. Okay, so that way I'm not guaranteeing that it's the right mobile number, but at least I'm ensuring that I'm eliminating commonly error routines. Okay. Now these are example of a business rules. Okay, business rules are nothing but the validations that we need to keep in mind or apply whenever the software is functioning or a process is happening. Okay, say for example, these business validations or these business rules are are something that we take care of in our day-to-day life. Suppose you want to call someone. Okay, will you be able to call someone using your mobile phone if you don't have sufficient balance? Okay. You'll always get a notification, which means the telecom companies are always keeping an eye on your balance. Okay. The moment your balance falls to zero, okay, it will immediately start sending you notifications. Okay. So what basically is happening is they won't allow you to make any further calls. Okay. So that's again an example of a business rule or validation that they are doing. Now I'll take a pause here, see if there are any questions before we move ahead. Any questions? Yeah, I'll take the silence as no questions. We'll move ahead. The next one is called as environments or regions. Okay. So basically, environments or regions, they facilitate parallel development. Okay. So why we need parallel development? Now, generally, you all might have, or you all would be using WhatsApp, I'm assuming. Okay. Now, there are billions of users who use WhatsApp. Okay. There are billions of users of WhatsApp. Suppose tomorrow WhatsApp decides to bring in a new feature. Okay. And that new feature could be, let's say, integrating AI. Uh, it is already there, but let's say integrating AI into WhatsApp chats. Okay. Now, this is a new feature that is not currently available, and there are billions of users of WhatsApp. Okay. So, whenever a company is rolling out a new feature, they don't want their customers to get disturbed. Okay. So, what they do is they want to do the development work. Okay, they want to do the development work on a server that is not used by the customers. So what basically happens in this scenario is the WhatsApp doesn't want billions of users to get impacted because of a change. Suppose they are trying to integrate artificial intelligence into WhatsApp chats, but the developer has made a mistake. There is some coding issue. There are certain errors. Okay. So because of those errors or coding issue, WhatsApp doesn't want its users to get impacted. So what WhatsApp will do is whatever new changes are there, they first want to test it themselves. If all looks good, then only they will roll out to everyone. Okay. So the simple way to do it is most of the companies where you go, they will try to maintain a test server and a production server. Okay. So production server is where the actual product resides. Okay. When I say actual product, what I mean is a product that is used by the customers. Okay. Test server basically has a copy of the actual product. Okay. And test server is where you will play around. So you want a new feature like integrating AI. So basically you will first try to implement it on the test server. You'll make the changes, you will do the testing, and if all looks good, then basically you copy the updated code from test server to production server. Okay. And production server is what will have the product that is being used by the customers. So customers will not have access to test server. Okay. So now in test server, whatever you want, you can do without impacting your customer base. Okay. So that is what is being done through the concept of environment or region. So environment or region is nothing but separate servers, okay, which will take care of test request and production request. Okay. So companies production server, they keep it for the actual product that is being used on a live daily basis by the customers. And test servers are more for their R&D kind of work, research and development. Whatever changes you want to do, whatever changes you want to try upon, do it on test server. Once your changes are successful, it is not causing any issue, it is working as expected, then you copy the code from test server to production server. Okay. Now, generally, some companies can keep things very simple and they can have a simple test environment and a production environment. That's it. Okay. One test environment, one production environment. But more matured companies, okay, they understand that one simple test environment may not be enough. Okay. So what they do is they set up multiple test environments. Okay. One environment is development environment, okay, which is where developers will do coding and testing. Okay. Then there will be a QA environment, okay, which is where my testers will do testing of the code. Okay. So development environment is where programmers or development will do coding and unit testing. QA environment is where after coding is complete, developer will push the code to QA environment or copy the code to QA environment. And now my QA team or testing team will do the testing. Okay. Then there is something called as UAT environment, or what is called as user acceptance testing. Okay. Now UAT environment is where I'll give access to my client. Okay. Suppose I am the IT company and WhatsApp is my client. So the key stakeholders from WhatsApp will get access to UAT environment. Okay. In the UAT environment, I'll show them how the software looks like with the new changes that we have made. In the UAT environment, the people from WhatsApp can do the testing. If they have any feedback, they can give me the feedback. If they are looking for more changes, they can tell me about it. If they are completely satisfied with what we have built, then they can give me a green signal or a go ahead. And that's when I'll move from development to QA, now QA to UAT. And if I receive a green signal, I'll move the code from UAT to production environment. Okay. So again, within test environment, you can have multiple segregations. Generally, more matured companies will have a dedicated test environment category for different type of activities. A startup kind of company may just try to, achieve everything with just one test environment. But as IT companies mature, they will eventually end up building lot of uh, test environments. Now, while we were talking about test environment, y- yeah, I'll also talk about one more thing called testing. Okay. Now, testing is an activity to ensure the quality of the product. Okay. Whatever product, basically whatever software or product my developers are coding, okay, I cannot just 100% rely on developers that they will always write a perfect code. Okay. Sometimes their code could be error free, no issues, but it just doesn't serve the business purpose mentioned in the requirement document. Okay. So we do testing, and there is a dedicated testing team, okay, that gets involved once the coding is complete. Okay, like I said here, okay. So development will comprise of activities like design, coding, and unit testing. Once the unit testing is complete, then the actual testing by the testing team begins. Okay. Now, the people who do the testing can be called as testers, or in a more sophisticated term, quality analyst. Okay, which is often abbreviated as QA. Just a minute. Yeah. So now in testing, all they are doing is they are testing the product through different scenarios to ensure how the product behaves or how the product reacts. Okay. So in testing, what they are trying to do is simply trying to ensure the quality of the product. How they are trying to ensure the quality of the product? By giving various combination of inputs. Okay, these different combination of input is called your test scenarios. And in the different combination, all they are trying to evaluate is what the response will be from the product, whether the response is as expected or against the expectations. Now there are different kinds of testing that gets involved over here. Okay. One is like system testing, okay, which is basically testing of the process or the application that is being changed. Okay. Then we have integration testing. Integration testing is when there are multiple applications that are impacted because of one change or multiple changes. Okay. So all I'm doing is I'm ensuring that because of my changes, my downstream applications are not negatively impacted. Okay. So testing across applications now, that will be your integration testing. Okay. After that, the next one that is involved is UAT. basically user acceptance testing. So now user acceptance testing could be basically a system testing or integration testing, but why a separate name of user acceptance testing? Because these are the testings that are initiated or executed by the stakeholders. Okay, I am doing testing. I'm telling my stakeholders that this is working as expected, but my stakeholder, doesn't trust me, or they want to test the product by themselves because they think that they have better knowledge or they are much more closer to the customers. So they should be the ones who should be evaluating or providing a final go or no go on the product. Okay. Now another type of testing is this unit testing, okay, that we discussed earlier. Now unit testing is particularly executed by developers, okay, where they focus on the individual programs that they have written. Suppose if I have to build an online payment solution using debit card and credit card, suppose I have written six programs. Okay. When these six programs work together, this entire functionality is there. Okay. But what I do as a developer is each program is called as unit. Okay. So when I'm testing program number one, I'm doing unit testing. When I'm testing program number two, I'm doing unit testing for program number two. Similarly, three, four, five, and six. Okay. So once I individually test each programs that they are error free, then I can do one comprehensive test and say that, my code is all good. Now I'm ready to push it for system testing. That's where then my testing team will initiate system testing. If it has any downstream or upstream impacts, there will be integration testing involving other applications as well. Finally, when all testing looks good, then I'll push it over to UAT. Okay. The next term that we want to discuss is estimation. Okay. So estimation is nothing but measurement of work. Okay. So whatever work is assigned to you, before we even jump onto executing our tasks, we must understand what the estimate is going to be. That means how much time is it going to take to finish off that work or that job. Okay. So this is essential for anyone to do the planning before you start the work. Suppose I give you a task, okay, and then you immediately jump onto working on that task. Okay. The day finishes and then I ask you for status that Raghu, what's the update on this work that I assigned you in the morning? And then you say that yeah, I'm still working on it. And then I give you a surprise. Sorry. I tell you that this work was supposed to be completed by today. Okay. And you are still not done. You are still saying it's in progress. Now we are at conflict. Now you will say that this is not something that can be finished in one day. I'll take at least 4 days to finish it off. Now there is no point in arguing once you have jumped into action. Okay. As a BA, in fact, as any role in IT industry, whether you work as a developer or a tester or a project manager, anyone for that matter, your first focus or question should be on the estimate. Whenever any work is assigned to you, what is the estimate and what's the priority? Okay. So you should build the expectations first, then get on to work. Okay. Suppose you don't ask me, if I am the client, you don't ask me what are your expectations. You simply make a note of work and then you get onto it. And then evening, I give you a surprise. Okay. So first talk to me. Okay. You want us to do certain work items. Okay. We will be happy to do that. But what's the timeline you are looking at for the work? Okay. You should be doing a self-assessment as well. I can give you unrealistic timelines. Being the client, I can give you unrealistic timelines. I want you to finish off the work in one day. Okay. But realistically speaking, it will take you 4 days. So what should you do? Okay. Again, the estimates will help. Okay. That Why are you saying 4 days? What's the reason behind this time? Try to understand from the client as well. Why are they saying 1 day, okay, for a 4 day work? Okay. So the reasoning part or the rationality part will help eliminate some of the confusions or conflicts. Okay. Even after rationalizing, if even if after rationalizing there is still a conflict, okay, then what you do is you try to get onto your stakeholder management skills. Okay, we will get to it later. Okay, but for now, estimation is more about measurement of work in terms of time. Okay. So before you jump onto any work, it is important to understand the estimates behind it. Before you make any commitments, before you get into action, understand the work, understand the estimates. Okay. We'll cover one more term, that is change management, and then we'll stop for any questions. So, change management is basically what the entire software development process that we will cover in the upcoming classes. That's the software development process is called as SDLC, or software development life cycle. Okay. So there are set of activities that gets executed. Once all those activities or set of activities are executed, you get a product or a software at the end. Okay. So the all the activities that revolve around managing the software development process is basically your change management. Okay. So, like keeping necessary audits in place. Sometimes, you would have heard organizations that boast about, I am CMMI level 4 company, I am CMMI level 5 company. So what does that mean? That there are external auditors that come into organizations, and they try to audit how you are executing work. So say for example, you are deleting data. Let's say a customer has requested you to delete data and you simply deleted data. Okay, there was a business requirement to delete data. So we built a functionality in our software to delete data. There's nothing wrong in it. Okay? But if you look from an audit perspective, what happens is anything that gets deleted should not be deleted blindly. Okay? There should be a proper link with respect to the original request that caused the delete. Say, for example, a customer called, reported that my ID card is or my credit card is stolen. Please block my credit card. Okay, so because of that customer's call, customer's request, you deleted their credit card information from your database so that no one else can misuse it. Okay, so now because I deleted that information, I need to link it with the original call. Okay, that I received. So, on what date, at what time the customer called, why they called, what was the reason their credit card was stolen, and that's why they requested to delete data, and that's why I deleted the data from my system. Okay. So, that entire auditing sometimes, okay, other than just doing the work, maintaining the appropriate audits, maintaining the appropriate documents, when a particular team should get involved, when a team should not get involved, all those management kind of stuff is included in your change management. Okay. So change management is more of something that concerns project managers or scrum masters, that how do they manage their team, their work efficiently so as to boost up their productivity. Okay. Any questions so far? Yeah, I'll take the silence as no questions. So we still have 10 minutes. I think we can cover the remaining ones as well. The next one we have is stakeholder. Okay. So more often when we talk from a layman's perspective, we call our the person who is giving us the work or who is paying us the money for the work we are doing or who wants a software to be built, we call them client. Okay, now client is completely normal term to use, there's no problem with it, but in order to add more weightage to it, we use the term stakeholders. Okay, so stakeholders are basically people or sorry, stakeholder could be an individual or group of individuals that actually own the business idea. Okay, so they are the ones who have a business idea to be implemented. Okay, and they are coming to me. I am part of an IT company to get that idea implemented. Okay. So anyone in simple terms is anyone who has a vested interest in the project success is a stakeholder. Sorry. Stakeholder, the simple way to remember is anyone who has a vested interest in the project is your stakeholder. Okay. Now within stakeholders also we have multiple categories, that we will cover later. Okay, but for now, you can remember that clients fall into the category of business stakeholders. Okay. So whenever we refer to clients, we can also call them business stakeholders as well. Next is a bunch of different roles that are involved. Okay. So for example, let's say development lead. Okay. Or development lead or technical lead. Now we have already talked about that development basically comprises of these activities: designing, coding, unit testing. Okay, so all these activities are executed by someone called programmer, coder, or developer. Okay, so basically they are the ones who will take care of development activity. Now if these guys, programmer, coder, or developer, if they fall into problem, if they have any issues, concerns, suppose they have written a code but that code keeps failing, they are not able to understand why that fails. Okay, so what they do, they reach out to their development lead or technical lead who can help them with design, who can help them with either designing, resolving their doubts, giving them training, preparing them for new technologies that are coming up. Okay. Generally, they are considered as much more experienced as compared to programmers, developers, and that's why they are the ones managing a set of programmers or developers. Okay. Then, similarly, we talked about testers and QAs as well. Okay. They are the ones who are responsible for testing activity. Okay. So if these guys face any problem, what they do, they'll reach out to their test lead. Okay. Now a BA can help resolve your business related doubts, okay, your requirement related doubts. When I say your, basically I'm referring to programmers or testers. Okay, if these QA or developers, they have any business related doubt, requirement related doubt, they can definitely reach out to BA to get it resolved. But when they have technical doubts, okay, when they have technical challenges, a BA might not be the ideal person to resolve your technical challenges. So, what you do, you reach out to your respective leads who can help you resolve your technical challenges. Okay. Now, even these people sometime can come to BA as well. As a BA, I may not be technically equipped enough to resolve their doubts, but what I can certainly do is I can either connect these developers to another technical lead, another test lead, or a technical architect, okay, and get their doubts resolved. Now, on the other hand, a technical architect is a person who understands technology really well. Okay? So, who understands technology Now they are the first interactions once the requirement document is created. Okay, so as a BA, when you are working into software development, the moment you create a requirement document, that requirement document should be passed on to a technical architect. Okay, technical architects are capable of understanding requirement document and technology. Okay, so they try to create a harmony between the two. They evaluate your requirement, see if it can be technically implemented. If it can be technically implemented, then what's the design that looks like. Okay, once they create a design, that is where your programmer or developer or technical lead gets into picture. Okay? Consider it like you want to construct a house. So, what do you do for constructing a house? You call in an architect first. The architect will come, evaluate the space. Okay, so let's say you want to construct a villa onto a land. Okay, so you show the architect the land that you have. Then the architect asks you for requirement. Okay, so you show the land, you give your requirements. Now, architect is someone who is considered to be understanding their area as well. Okay, so based on that, they create a blueprint or a design. Okay, they will give you the design and then they will walk away. What you do? Then you hire a bunch of masons, laborers, okay, whatever you can say, helpers, okay, and then they look at the design and they implement the design. Okay? That's more of what happens in IT as well. Okay, so a technical architect will ask for the requirements from you, evaluate your requirements, okay, and then create a blueprint or a design document, okay, on how this can be implemented. Once this design document is available, that's when your programmers or developers get involved and they try to write down code as per the design document. Okay. Now SMEs we have another two set of people, that is SME or consultants. Okay. Now these could be interchangeably used. Okay, SME is someone who is considered as a subject matter expert. Okay, so basically they hold expertise in a particular subject, in a particular area, in a particular domain only. Okay. A consultant could be exactly same as SME, but in my experience, the difference that I have observed is consultants are more of a contract employee. Say, for example, I have project that I am running. Okay, and in that project, I require some kind of expertise, but I know it's a 6 month project. After 6 months, the project will be over. So I don't want to hire a full-time employee. So what do? I hire a consultant who can provide me with their expert guidance for 6 months. After 6 months, I can tell the consultant, Tata, bye bye. If I have another project, I'll reach out to you. Okay. So that way, I don't have to work on adding a full-time employee into my organization. That's pretty much the difference I have seen. Otherwise, SME and consultants could be used interchangeably. They both do the exact same thing. They both are supposed to have tremendous amount of expertise into their subject areas so that they can provide consultation to the team members, project managers, or even to our clients as well. Then the last term is defect or bug or issue. Okay. So what it means is basically deviation from the standard or expected output. So remember when we were talking about testing, we said QAs will generally ensure the quality of product by doing testing. How will they test? They will test with different combinations of data. This different combination of data is called as your test cases or test scenarios. Okay. Every test case or test scenario will have few things. Okay. So every test case or test scenario will have an expected output. Let me write it here. It's will have an expected output. Okay? Suppose I am trying to log in to my e-commerce platform by entering mobile number and password. What's the expected output? That once I enter the mobile number and password, the expectation is that I should be able to log in. Okay? The expectation is simple, I should be able to log in. But when I enter the details and I click on login button, I get a different output. Okay? The output could be server down, incorrect credentials. Okay. So whenever there is a deviation from the expected output, that is called as your defect, bug, or issue. Okay. So every test case or scenario will have an expected output, and deviation from the expected output is your defect, bug, or issue. Okay. So testers, what they try to do is they try to write down the test case, okay, and the expected output. As a BA, I will review their test cases and the expected output. That whether the expected output for every test case is what it should be. Because as a BA, I understand the requirements well. Using requirement document only, a QA is actually creating a test plan. So when I review their test plan, I can give them feedback that your test case is incorrect, or you need to add more test cases, or the expected output is incorrect. Okay. Once we have this test case plus expected output ready, this is part of your test plan. Once I have this ready, once the QA team has this ready, then they start capturing actual output. Okay. Actual output is nothing but when they use the software to see how the software is responding. So one is theoretical output, that is your expected output. That if I give correct mobile number, if I give correct password, then I should log in. That's my expectation. That's my expected output. That's a theoretical output. What happens when I get access to software or product? When I have access to it, then I give correct, then I actually enter correct mobile number, correct password, and then I capture the output. That is your actual output. Okay. If there is any variance, deviation, mismatch between expected and actual output, that is your defect or bug. Okay. So QA's team responsibility is to uncover as many bugs or defects as much possible. Okay. We don't want any bugs to be found during production environment. Okay. So production environment is used by our customers. Okay. So we don't want customers to find any defects or bugs. So our expectation is to find as many defects or bugs as possible during testing phase. So QA's team's sole responsibility or sole focus is to ensuring quality. How do they ensure quality? That there are no defects or bugs in the software. Okay. If they can identify defects or bugs during testing phase, the development team or the coding team can fix it. We can fix it while we are still doing that R&D work, okay, so that we can deliver a more stable product in a production environment. Yeah. And as a BA, you kind of oversee all this activity. You just don't gather requirements and sit quietly after noting down requirements. You actually coordinate with your team members to ensure that the coding is going as per expectations, that the testing is going as expected, that we are not finding any defects or bugs during testing. If any defects or bugs are found, that those bugs are being actively worked upon by the developers as well. Okay, so you are coordinating all these activities along with capturing requirements as well. Okay, with that, we have come to the end of our today's class. We are already on time, but before we end our class, any questions? Okay, I'll take the silence as no questions. Thank you, everyone. We'll connect tomorrow.